Thank you, Archana. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rajesh Khanna from Youth for Jobs Foundation, and it is my pleasure to host a panel with leaders who have largely contributed to diversity and inclusion in corporate sector. We have dignitaries from IT and BFSI sector who have recruited, trained, and led up pathways in the career of persons with disability. Now, over to the session. First, I would like to introduce a senior leader with 25 years of financial services in transaction banking, operations, credit, and sales. He has developed a reputation as a trusted advisor via a track record of strategic foresight, shaping customer-centric solutions, and leading teams through complex change. This person was an executive director with ABN AMRO, where he was responsible for bank's global service center in Chennai. During his tenure, he has initiated hiring persons with disability to make his team more inclusive. Dear participants, please join me in welcoming the regional chief operating officer of ANZ Banking Group, Mr. Venkatesh Subbaraman, for our panel. And thanks to Mr. Venkatesh for joining us. Next, we have another leader who is a core stakeholder in his company's plans and initiatives aimed at inclusion, well-being, emotional health, and technological empowerment of its workforce, partners, and users. He leads one commercial accessibility program in Microsoft India and is an active member of Diversity and Inclusion Council and Disability Employee Resource Group at Microsoft. This person is playing an important role in his organization's initiatives towards fostering an inclusive workplace and a culture of empathy. He has made a significant contribution in the field of Indian language computing, for which he was conferred on the coveted Atmaram Award by the President of India in the year 2015. Dear friends, please join in welcoming the Director, Localization and Accessibility of Microsoft India, Mr. Balendu Sharma, for our panel. Thanks to Mr. Balendu Sharma for joining us.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's a pleasure for me.
It's a pleasure for us also, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So here, my first question is to Mr. Venkatesh. Can you please share about the inclusive practices of your organization related to persons with disability?
Thank you, Rajesh, and thank you, the panelists and the audience, for listening to us today. This inclusive topic is a very important one for many years for a lot of us. And over the many years, we have developed new ways to make sure that this happens in a more seamless way in the organization. So previously, I was in ABN AMRO Bank in India, but since then, I've not been in India. I've been outside the country for the last more than 13, 14 years now. And Padmavati, the co-panelist, is a employee of ABN AMRO India actually at that time, and both of us were co-workers at that time. So great to be in the same panel as Padmavati. The many things we have done in the last few years and many years actually. The first thing is that you have to understand that the landscape has changed in the last 20 years to be more non-dependent on physical skills. So many years ago, if you had to get some work, it has to be a physical work. And that has dramatically changed over the last many years, even 20, 30 years actually. So the skilled worker is not necessarily required to be, other than mentally skillful, mentally able, it's not necessary to have, can have other disabilities or special abilities. So, however, it took a long time for people to realize that. And I think there are two challenges, and this is where the NGO can bridge the challenge. The first challenge is in the minds of the student or the specially able person itself. There is a gap that, or a doubt, or an insecurity that if they are actually capable or not. So that is the first challenge in the mind of the person with a special ability. Then the organization themselves have not enabled to recruit and nurture this talent. For example, you have to make some adjustment to accommodate a person, and the organization should be willing for that. So it took a long time for the organization to come to the party. So in my mind, there is no reason why over the last 30, 40 years, we could have done a lot more, and we have not done enough, frankly. So coming specifically to ANZ, in ANZ today, 7% of all employees are specially able employees, 7%. That's a good number. Now, it's not a double-digit number. Still, it is a fantastic number. So it's been a consistent effort to recruit and focus on specially able people and make sure that they are welcome. They are able to be trained adequately, and that's a challenge we will talk about, the training for specially able people. And we can talk about that in the next round of discussion. And they are welcome, they are trained, they are given assistance. So I think the quality of the outcome has to be sacrosanct.
Now, Mr. Balendu, could you share your views on the role of technology in empowering the persons with disability?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I agree with Mr. Venkatesh in many things. And let me also talk about as to what Microsoft does about this particular topic, how we deal with hirings at Microsoft, especially people with disability. So I agree with Mr. Venkatesh that in certain situations, certain kind of people are more suitable to certain jobs, and no organization will be, thinking in terms of compromising in the quality of work or the delivery of work that they are expecting from their employees. But at the same time, we have, in our own experience, we have seen that there are certain people who bring in a lot of, unique kind of capabilities to the table when they join an organization. Even if the people are, they are affected with diverse kind of disabilities, but they bring in their own unique perspective to the company. For example, people who are affected with autism or dyslexia, they might be very good in programming skills. Similarly, people who are visually disabled, they might be very good at handling people or maybe talking to people, focusing on certain things, etc. So every person is unique, every person's contribution is unique to an organization, and we believe in that uniqueness and the power of that person's productivity that the person brings along with him to any organization. As far as Microsoft is concerned, perhaps you are aware that our mission is to empower each and every individual and every business in the world to achieve more. And when we talk about empowering everyone, then it cannot be without people with disability. We all know that there are around 1.15 billion people of disability across the world, and that is around 15% of the world population. So how can any organization that is responsible towards society, any organization that believes in inclusive culture, diversity of culture, can any organization of that kind just ignore this kind of population? That is almost impossible. And for Microsoft also, that is entirely impossible. And perhaps I think you are aware that Microsoft is known for empathy in its entire operations, in its work culture, etc. And that empathy also translates into our hiring processes. When we talk about Microsoft, generally people think that, okay, this is a product company, they have Windows in the office, but no. Although Windows in the office, they are fully accessible, so that is another dimension to it. But Microsoft's story is not just limited to products, but inclusion and accessibility is ingrained in our culture and thought system. We have a completely inclusive workplace. We are an equal opportunity employer, and we are one of the few companies that have a chief accessibility officer. So that shows the kind of commitment that we have for the cause of people with disability, for the cause of accessibility. As far as hiring is concerned, there are so many things that I can share with you. For example, the first connection of a person who is unemployed with Microsoft, that begins at the website level. And Microsoft's recruitment website is completely accessible to people with hearing impairment, to people with visual disability, etc. So that is accessible website. Once you go there and you apply there, there are so many facilities that we provide to people with disability. And I'll talk about that. Now, there are certain programs that we have for specifically designed for hiring people with disability. For example, we have an autism hiring program in which students who are autistic or affected with autism, they are hired for programming jobs. And that is making a lot of headlines across the world. But that is not because of any kind of, we are thinking in terms of doing something good about somebody. No, it's not like that. Actually, the people who come into Microsoft as programmers and who are affected with autism, they bring in a lot of qualities. They focus more on product building, they focus more on the details, they focus more on the design part. They provide their own individual and unique perspectives and their own experiences and insights that help us build better products. So it is not because we are going to benefit them only, our company also gets benefited from that. Similarly, we have a disability hiring program in which every person who is hired is helped in different manners. We even after hiring, if somebody joins Microsoft, we have so many different systems in place that work with that person, work with that employee to make him very convenient to work inside Microsoft. For example, we have employee resources groups where help is available, where LIs are available, where people are available who are volunteering to work with that particular employee and help him learn Microsoft's ecosystem, the ways we work, to better integrate with our culture, work culture, etc., etc. Similarly, we have a diversity and inclusion council that also helps such employees. We have assistive software. So every employee who is hired, they can buy assistive software, and we have a provision for that. Now, even during the process of hiring, there are certain things that we try to accommodate here. For example, every candidate is asked if they need any kind of accommodation, if they are applying for any job or if they are appearing for any interview at Microsoft. For example, you can change the location of your interview. If you don't want to travel to Microsoft office, you can say that, no, I will stay at this place. Can you please come to this place, or maybe we can do it remotely, etc. Similarly, they can also request for a sign language interpreter. They can ask for an attendant to be present at the same time when interview is being conducted. They can also ask for remote interviews, like virtual interviews, if they are not in a position to attend it physically. Wheelchair support is another thing. At the same time, if they are coming to Microsoft's buildings, they will find that the buildings are accessible. They will find ramps there, they will find braille signs there, and all the other requirements which are required by, which are necessary to make it a level playing field for most people. So that is a commitment on Microsoft's behalf. And I think that is right now under this part, it is enough for me to talk about, but let's talk about other dimensions after some time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Balendu. You have shared the various accessibility measures offered for persons with disability in your organization. And now over to Ms. Padmavati Kodandaraman. How do candidates with disability add value to the business? How do they perform?
Hi, thanks Rajesh, first of all, for putting the panel together. I know that we have a number of people as audience today who are educators, NGOs, and people with disability themselves. Okay, so a very good morning to all of you. Okay, so to your question, Rajesh, in terms of how do candidates add business value? Okay, so our experience has been that the people with disability have the same skills and talent like any other group. Yeah. To give you a bit of a background, okay, I think within India, unfortunately for decades, disability has been dealt with more from a medical model. What I mean by that is a person has an impairment, so he or she is looked at as somebody having the impairment, and a lot of their formative years goes around treatments and cure. It's only the last couple of decades, right? So there's been a shift in that perspective towards a social model, where we understand that the person has an impairment. Okay, an adjustment is done to enable that person to overcome the impairment. And thereafter, it is about what the society offers. And today, if you look around us, it's unfortunately, the society, is the society, ready enough to accommodate people with disability? For example, if somebody has a mobility and he or she is on a wheelchair, how many of the buildings in the society, in malls, places of worship, etc., are all enabled with ramps, to help them move around?
So the third topic is the visually impaired. From a banking perspective, other than the call center, because frankly, when I listened to Balendu Sharma sir from Microsoft, I was really thrilled about the toolkit that is now developed. Now, at least us, we have not used that much of a technology toolkit to be enabling some of these candidates to be effective. And therefore, for visually impaired, I cannot think of anything other than a call center employee. And even a call center employee needs to have visual help to see the customer details and stuff. Probably I'll pass it on to Balendu Sharma, sir, to see if there is any technology improvements that are there to make this more effective. Because we have not, our call center is not in India. Our call center is actually in Manila and Chengdu, and we don't have that proposition there. So from an India perspective, we only have the banking services, which is not the voice services. So therefore, I don't know much about it. So I'll pass it on to Balendu Sharma, sir.
Balendu, sir, you're on mute. We request you to unmute and talk, sir.
Sorry for that. So as far as technology is concerned, a lot of work has been done in recent years. I would say that during the last 10 years, a lot of work has been done in assistive technologies, and now assistive technologies are not as difficult to get as they used to be some time back. Sometimes, I mean, you even don't need to buy a technology today. Many of them are available inside your own Windows operating system. Many of them are available inside Office itself, and also in the newer softwares like Teams, which is a collaboration software, which is just like Zoom, on which we are speaking right now. So many such features, many such strengths are already available in the same software that we use in our day-to-day jobs. For example, if a person who is hearing impaired, now our collaboration software Teams has a facility that they can just switch on captions. So somebody is speaking and automatically the text is converted into captions, and a person, if he's unable to speak or read, speak or he's hearing impaired, he cannot listen, then he can just read the captions there. So that is one thing. Similarly, people who are visually disabled, they can use certain other things like text to speech. Any text which has been typed, it can be read out to that person. Narrator is one application inside Windows, which makes it very easy for a person with visual disability to hear out what is going on the desktop. It reads out everything which is going on. For example, you are in Microsoft Word now, you are working on this document, the text that you are looking at is this, you are typing this, the font size is this, etc., etc. So entire environment is read out to that person. Now, these are some of the examples, but there are so many things which have been developed in the recent years. Or now technology is making it more possible for employers to be comfortable with the disabled hirings, and that is a big contribution from technology towards employment of people with disability. As far as Microsoft is concerned, as far as technology companies are concerned, and if we talk about visual disabilities, like our friend has asked, we don't see any limitation as far as where a visually disabled person can be employed in Microsoft. We have them almost in every department. We have programmers who are visually disabled. They might not be completely visually disabled, but they might be low vision. They might be color blinded, and some of them might not even have 10% of the vision. So they are in programming department. They are working on our products. That is one thing. We also have a particular software tool which is called Code Talk, using which a person who is visually disabled, he can program even without looking at the screen. And we know that visually disabled people don't need the screen at all. Some of them actually don't use the monitor. You will be surprised to know there is no monitor, just the CPU and the keyboard. That's it. And they are programmers. They are working on different very ambitious softwares. So I say that there is no limit to what a person can achieve if technology reflects in the diversity of everyone that uses it. So that is one thing. Now, apart from programming department, apart from engineering, people are working in Microsoft in finance who are visually disabled. They are working in HR and they are visually disabled. People are at the reception and they are visually disabled. In call center, they are visually disabled. In fact, let me call out one person who is the chief, who is leading Microsoft social media. Like Twitter is being handled by a person who is visually disabled. Can you imagine this? Microsoft India's Twitter handle, the entire posts that go there, which are posted there on behalf of Microsoft India, they are generated and handled and managed by a person who is visually disabled. So there is no limit. We have a software called Seeing AI. Seeing AI. That means seeing artificial intelligence. And that software is available on iPhone right now. It is an application on iPhone. And the application actually helps a person navigate or connect with others. The person is visually disabled, like anybody who cannot see anything around him or her. They just use Seeing AI on iPhone, and iPhone, the Seeing AI app from Microsoft reads out everything. It will tell them that you are standing in such a situation, you are in a park, or you are on a road, or you are in a market, and somebody is coming towards you. Or, uh, be cautious because there is a bus coming towards you, etc., etc. So it will be reading out. It will be describing the environment around. It will also be reading out whatever is there around that person. For example, there is a signboard. It can read out of that person that, okay, this is that road you are standing at. This is that bus stop, etc., etc. Similarly, if you go to a restaurant, you just need to get the menu, and this application reads out all the contents of the menu. So it provides you an entirely inclusive atmosphere just by being with you. It is like a virtual assistant for a person who is visually disabled. It can identify currency notes. So somebody cannot give you a currency note of 100 rupees saying that this is a 500 rupees note, etc., etc. So that is there. It can also identify people in your friend list, in your contact list. For example, if you know Rajesh, then it will tell you that Rajesh is coming towards you. And it can identify emotions of people. Somebody is smiling at you, somebody is frowning at you, it will tell you. So like uh, my other fellow panelists were talking about social reactions. You are now able to see those reactions. You are now able to hear them out. But why it is relevant with hirings? The reason is that this product has been made by a person who is visually disabled. And the name of the person is Shakib Sheikh. He is in Microsoft UK, and he has developed this. So that's why I say that everybody who joins a company brings in unique insights, unique experiments, unique capabilities, which other people cannot do. So as far as Microsoft is concerned, we hire different kind of people. Visually disabled, I have talked about. Autism hiring, I have already told you that these people are hired for programming. But we also hire other people like locomotive disabilities. That is not any big challenge at all for our company as well. We hire them. And even hearing impaired, speech impaired people, because we are in the business of building technology that empowers everyone. So we have to be sure that we lead what we say. Actually, we have to be an example of what we say. So when we say that Microsoft empowers everyone in the world, we have to be completely inclusive, and we are. So that is what I would like to share.
Thank you, sir. Thanks to both Mr. Balendu and Mr. Venkatesh for sharing the assistive technologies available for different types of persons with disability. Now we have a question for Mrs. Padmavati Kodandaraman. What are the chances of career progressions available for persons with disability in an organization or within the organization?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, great question. Thank you. So as I always keep repeating this, right? So everybody goes through the same career path. Okay, so the difference is only in how you make the environment accessible. So Mr. Balendu spoke about many accessible technologies, right? So I can stand testimony to a lot of what he said, because we use Microsoft Teams, we use Office 365, we use software like JAWS, especially for people with visual impairment. Okay, so we do a number of things to make sure that each employee is able to bring their skills and talent, okay, to the table, and he or she is their best when it comes to delivering work. So that said, okay, so and the moment you make that available for them, so they are able to give it their best. Second comes, okay, when it comes to promotions and career enhancements, right? It's about so am I ready to take on the next level, or am I ready to take on a wider role? Okay, so these are all the things that we would need to consider, right, when it comes to career progression.
I think it is very well articulated. The entire panel touched upon various key aspects of people with disabilities. We started off with the types of disabilities and the inclusion provisions that have been made in an organization for different types of disabilities. We also discussed about the job roles that are there for these people with disabilities. And we also touched upon the accommodations that, for instance, if somebody requires a support standing next to that person, then enable him. So we also talked about that accommodations. So there was another question in the group that asked from the participants, and also different types of assistive tools that are available in the market. Some of them are paid services, and some of them are free services. So another interesting question is good that once we come into the right skill set that you're able to absorb us. So are there any accommodations at the time of the interview, or do we have to go through the same process as any other person? Say for instance, like Venkatesh was talking to us about asking a person with locomotor disability climbing 2 floors and then expect him to show up for the meeting daily, that he wouldn't show up. So are there any accommodations at the time of the interview? And if yes, then what types of accommodation that do you follow in your organization? Please, can you share your views on that?
So maybe I can.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead, Mr. Balendu.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I would like to talk about that. First and foremost, in Microsoft, like I said, that Microsoft is an equal opportunity employer. And like Mr. Venkatesh said, that you should, I mean, if there is an equal opportunity employer, we have to make sure that the environment and the ecosystem is really accessible to a person with disability. And we try to make sure that it is like that. For example, when people apply for any jobs at Microsoft, we ask them, especially when a person has to travel to certain place in order to appear for an interview, we would ask as to what are the accommodations which are required. If he wants to stay in a hotel, what kind of accommodation is required? Maybe he might need a wheelchair, he might need some other support, etc. So right from the accommodation itself, we try to accommodate all the requirements. I mean, most of the requirements that we can meet to meet them. So that is one thing. Other than that, as I mentioned, that a person can change the location of the interview itself. They can say that, no, I cannot come to that place. Is it possible that you can come to my place, or we can do it remotely? So that is another possibility. Now, if a person is hearing impaired or speech impaired, we can arrange a sign language interpreter for the interview. So that is another thing that we are doing. Similarly, for a visually impaired person, we will arrange these kind of technologies, like screen readers will be available there. George, like Ms. Padma had just talked about George, or our own narrator, or some other application that the person might be familiar with. So that is for visually impaired person. Another thing is, we would also ask the person if he wants us to read out the documents, if there are any documents that have to be signed out to that person, or so there will be a proper way of reading out the documents and getting that person involved, delivering the content in the way that the person finds it convenient. Similarly, wheelchair support and attendant being with the person, etc. I mean, these are the accommodations that we have in Microsoft during the job hiring processes.
What are the suggestions? So, say for instance, would you, as an organization, do you all think that it's not just very specific to the organization that you work for, but are you suggesting the organizations are willing to work with these educational institutions one-on-one case? Because we work with various corporates, and they are willing to work with education institutions. They go to the campus, they train these people through Youth for Jobs Foundation, and ensure that they also get the right skill sets and they get selected over a period of time. So what are your suggestions to the education institutions? If you have to sum it up as 1, 2, 3, these are the skills required and these are the association they should look for. So how do you sum it up, and what are your recommendations to them so they are job ready as they graduate? And these are people with different types of disabilities. Over to 3 of it, please.
So should I go first?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So first thing is that in today's time, because everyone is working remotely, it is very important that the people with disability, the students with disability, the youth with disability are trained in digital technologies, especially the collaboration technologies. And that is very important. Although I think 3-4 months back, we did not imagine this kind of a situation which has come up. But now it is a reality, and we are going to live with this reality in future. So we have to train them in digital skills. That is one thing. Number two, social skills are also very important. And number three, the productivity skills. So as far as I'm concerned, I will say that digital skills, working with your devices, working with internet, working with the, mobile phone, etc., working with the collaboration software, remote work software, these kind of video calling software, etc. That is one aspect of digital skills. Secondly, I said that social skills are important because both sides uh, have to make some adjustment, some understanding has to come between both the sides, like a person with disability as well as the other person who is not disabled. So some kind of understanding is required, so social skills come into picture. And number three is productivity, because as Venkatesh ji and Mr. Venkatesh as well as Ms. Padmavati, they have said, and I echo that, that sentiment of theirs, is that ultimately it is the work for which people are hired, irrespective of their ability or disability. So one has to be trained in the productivity, one has to be trained in the area of work that the person is going to work. So that is very important, and that training has to be there. Now, as far as working with the NGOs is concerned, Microsoft works with a lot of NGOs in this space, in training and skilling space. We reach out to different organizations. For example, Sarthak is one organization. Even we have worked with Youth for Jobs, I remember, in some this or that project. NIOS is another organization where we go and we work with. We also conduct a lot of webinars on our own, as well as we partner with NGOs. So that is one opportunity available with us. And let me talk about OCAP, which is a new program that we have started, and I'm leading that in Microsoft. That is one commercial accessibility program. Under this program, we are trying to reach out to organizations in the education space, and we want people to be trained, people with disability to be trained in technologies, and we are providing our own help or assistant or contribution to that goal. So that is one area where we can work with uh, organizations like Youth for Job and other NGOs. So the name of the program is OCAP, and if any NGO is interested in connecting with us on that, please do feel free to connect me personally, and we can take it forward. Okay, other than that, also we have many resources available on Microsoft websites. Like some of you might be aware of Imagine Academy that we have in Microsoft, that has online skilling programs. So people with disability, they can come to our website, they can do, they can take these courses, etc. They can also be certified. Similarly, we have a Accessibility 101 course that trains people in different aspects of accessibility, like physical accessibility, as well as culture of an organization, at the same time digital accessibility, how to use different applications and devices, etc., etc. So that is another program which is available from Microsoft, and people can also earn their own badges there. That is one opportunity for people with disability. Other than that, for educators, we have a program called Microsoft Innovative Educator Certification. So teachers can also join that. They can just search it on Microsoft website. They will find that that web page, and they can apply for that. We are also working with industry bodies like NASSCOM and FICCI, etc. Recently, we have come, we have come together with NASSCOM to announce a particular program called Innovate for Accessible India. Under this program, we are encouraging youth to innovate, to come up with their ideas, to come up with their maybe applications, etc., their ideas for software or any other services, etc. So we are encouraging them, and this is something which has an aspirational value also, other than the rewarding aspect of it.
That is one thing which is actually missing in many people as people pass out, and not only specially able people, but generally speaking, because they are taking it still very easy. They are not serious. So professionalism brings the seriousness of work. Frankly, one thing we don't keep in mind, which is at the boom of the whole information technology and the enabled services, is at the cost of someone else also. So many jobs are moved from overseas. We don't actually take seriously that someone else is losing their job to give you the job. And if you know that some other family is getting affected and you're being given the job, you better take it seriously, and you be end-to-end professional, and and focus on the result, and success is yours. So the success is all about attitude. All of us are born with similar skill sets of intellectual skill sets, There are some differences. People are very exceptional. Otherwise, people are normal like us. But the key is the attitude and making sure that we are professional. I think that will actually determine a success or a failure, I feel. But a lot of points made, so not taking away the points made earlier, and such great work Microsoft is doing, heartening to know, sir. It's amazing, actually, whatever is happening in this market. I'm outside the country, so I'm still new. I'm not up to date, but heartening to know. Thank you.
Thank you, team. Thanks to all the panelists. I think we have discussed different things related to diversity and inclusion, starting from assistive technology, accommodative measures required in organization, how the personal development of the candidate will improve themselves, like self-advocacy, and building their communication skill and for their career progression, and different programs for even educators, and engaging different types of disability in the employment opportunities. I think the session was the most interesting and informative one. And so here, I would like to thanks to all the panelists for sharing your insights and experience with us. And I am confident this would have given different aspects of knowledge for all the practitioners in this diversity and inclusion sector. And those were really thought-provoking questions, even from the participants. And once again I thank all our panelists and participants for their time and sharing their best practices. Now I request Ms. Suganya from SIDA Bharatdasan University to initiate the next panel on disability inclusion in higher education for locomotor disability and learning disability. So over to you, Ms. Suganya.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Venkatesh, Madam Padmavati, and Mr. Balendu Sharma. Thanks for joining us, and we really appreciate your point of view. And it certainly would have added a lot of value to the education institutions as well as to the participants. So we will see you soon in our next panel, maybe, or maybe that we will talk to you over the phone to take your advice on many other things. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ramesh, and thanks to all the other panelists and participants. Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye.
Thank you.